Whatever happened to Rooster Teeth? They went from a couple of friends making videos to a full-fledged content production company, and somehow still managed to make their everyday work life seem more interesting than the average Joe's best day ever. Let me start by saying that picking any side of an argument where you can't hear both points is a dubious proposition at best. With that being said, let's go ahead and pick a side. So if you haven't already guessed, this video is going to have a different tempo than my other videos because it isn't exactly covering the content, rather the people that are creating the content and the drama surrounding that content. So, I don't know if I'll put up random gameplay or something in the background so it isn't just totally boring, but regardless, hear me out about this stuff. If you don't know who Shane Newville is, then you are failing yourself as a fan of RWBY and Rooster Teeth. Around 2 years ago, Shane released an open letter addressing and accusing Rooster Teeth of deliberately twisting Monty Oum's vision shortly after his passing. A direct quote from it, when speaking on how the direction of Monty Oum's original ideas were being changed, is, "Scenes which, several times, got cut completely or changed so that they no longer had any relevance or just way less of an impact." Shane was abruptly let go by Rooster Teeth in the middle of the workday. Shane goes on to state his experiences with Monty, meeting him, how Monty helped shape Shane's love of animation, as the two were constantly working together and discussing work and animation. A strange relationship to some, but when two people have a genuine love for the craft, it's all they really need to hold a conversation. After enduring a period of unemployment, Shane was brought on to Rooster Teeth roster as an animator at Monty's request, finally managing to land some stable income. After working on Red vs. Blue, Monty introduced his idea of creating an anime, his own anime. Shane remarked that when Monty was explaining this to his colleagues, their responses were underwhelming. The Red trailer was completed not soon after by Monty and Monty alone, and it turned out to be more than enough for Rooster Teeth to fully back the project. Not soon after, he completed the White trailer by himself as well. The Black and Yellow trailers were completed with the help of Shane and other animators, but one thing stayed true. Monty Oum's direction for the story was solid. Now, when Volume 1 was created, Shane remarks that specifically, a lot of decisions were made, changing animations and styles. People Monty wanted to work with were overlooked, and people he did not want to work with were hired. But Monty never seemed to care. He was too focused on creating his vision, but his frustration with the situation was still obvious. Not soon after, Shane's wife wanted a divorce. He still completed his workload for Volume 2, but noted that his productivity had taken a major blow. Shane mentions that both Monty and he would often speak of how to optimize everything they were doing, how to increase their productivity. This is actually pretty funny because at one point during a discussion, we learned that Monty would often push 5.5 on a microwave instead of the 1 minute because he felt that it was faster. And Monty was a person who tried to optimize everything he did, from sleeping to eating to working. We learned that both Monty and later Shane had the habit of including Easter eggs in their animations. The Zwei fireball was one, Penny's lasers cutting through the gunship and having a velociraptor fall out was another. These moments were considered not scripted, but something they deemed as just fun, whereas now Rooster Teeth's workflow is specifically crunched down to not allow this. Later on, shortly before his passing, Shane claims that Monty wanted to take their animators off set and work exclusively in their own studio, as Monty found that the increasing team was becoming less and less efficient. January 22nd, Monty has a serious reaction to an allergy shot, and after a series of ups and downs, there was no coming back from the extent of damage done. Friends and family and coworkers came to say their final goodbyes. Shane remarks that people in Rooster Teeth tried to manage who could see Monty and say goodbye, and found the gesture in bad spirit. February 1st, Monty Oum passed away. The following March, after time off, the pre-production meeting for RWBY had finally begun, and Shane claims that one of the producers made a very strong statement of Monty's wife has absolutely no business whatsoever with any part of RWBY. And he clearly feels that it was aimed at him, as he, Monty, and Sheena were often discussing RWBY. Here we see our first perversion done to the series, as Shane remarks that the only logical thing to do was bring Sheena, Monty's wife, onto the production team since she had always been at his side, and if anyone could respect and know what Monty wanted for the series, it was her. Shane claims that she knew the RWBYverse more than any of the producers or anyone that has ever worked on the show, and her additions had already gone uncredited in volumes 2 and 3 and even future volumes. He goes on to say that there are many aspects of the RWBYverse and characters that only she, Monty, and a few close friends knew the exact purpose of. Once she was removed from the equation, there was still significant gaps in the storyline of RWBY, and the people who filled those gaps with new ideas were changing the show significantly from what it was originally intended to be. Even if she does not have Monty's skill with animation, she has the same mind. A passionate man like Monty could spend hours talking to someone he loved about something he loved, and in this way she was a perfect fit. Everything, all the details and plans for the characters, as well as their meaning, all meticulously planned by Monty, with Sheena at his side. However, Rooster Teeth did not want her in the picture, regardless of how much the show suffered. Now, this could be simply due to the fact that they thought maybe it wouldn't be emotionally good for her because it was something that Monty worked closely on or what have you, but this choice was still in bad taste. The people calling the shots had a minimal understanding of the original ideas involved or had no idea at all what was going on with the show. A stark refusal to ask Sheena for her opinion or even let her assist led into a political drive where Shane was unable to even mention her name without it being a Voldemort curse. Shane laments that Rooster Teeth did not care for Monty's vision, as they felt the show's popularity was entirely due to the team as a whole and not the individual that thought up and created almost the entirety of the universe. He claims that they're proud of what they've done without Monty around, but Shane also states that Monty had left plenty of knowledge behind, enough for several volumes. All they needed to do was stop creating their own ideas, ask Sheena what to do, and RWBY could have continued Monty's vision for quite a while. Now this was during 3, as Shane notes that one of the first things Rooster Teeth decided to cut was Raven attacking Juniper during an open scene. He states that it was meant to foreshadow what was to come, and instead the producers did not understand the meaning of the scene, so they cut it, as they did not feel the need to ask Sheena for its original purpose. Apparently Rooster Teeth did not like that Monty put a scene of Raven after the credits in Volume 2 and wanted him to cut it, but he obviously refused and managed to get the scene inserted regardless. Another quick perversion was Winter Schnee as a character. Winter Schnee was a character that was meant to be tribute to Sheena's likeness, as Monty wanted her to voice the character. She created her own concept art and it was approved by Monty for Volume 3, and then Rooster Teeth scrapped the character entirely and remade it. They said Sheena could try out for the voice, just like everyone else, and it was only fair that the best voice actress would win. Shane realizes that Rooster Teeth does not care for Monty's story or idea and instead is focused on their own vision. In May, Rooster Teeth tweeted a thanks to all the voice actors for RWBY's success, with no mention of Monty Oum. It became evident that they were trying to pull attention away from Monty and Monty's vision to make it Rooster Teeth's RWBY and their vision. We fast forward a bit. Shane returns to Monty Oum's office to continue working on preparations for Volume 3, but is quickly cornered by one of the producers who claims that the office is to be given to the new game developer and that Monty's behavior in the past was unacceptable. And Shane was later reduced to working at a normal desk like everyone else, with the animation department being moved off-site. Fast forward a while, and Shane is working on the first episode of Volume 3, working closely with an animator that he had personally taken an interest in as being part of the dream team that Monty would have wanted. He claims that fights without scripts are the best, as it allows choreography to flow so much more, whereas when you had a storyboard with a fight, the fights just look, well, scripted. Originally, Monty created weapon models, transformations, and implemented them into scenes all by himself, but now it was broken up between several departments, all of whom had to work around protocol and not stepping on each other's toes. The next thing Shane worked on was Yang versus Mercury. He was excited for it, as it was the scene that he had discussed directly with Monty, and Mercury was his favorite bad guy. The character Mercury was originally based on JJ, and ever since the voice actor was switched to Yuri, Shane wasn't so sure about the fight anymore. However, he regained his momentum back and decided to do his best. Originally, Mercury's signature whirlwind attack was intended to be a ricochet, rounds bouncing off walls and enclosing on the pair. However, after Rooster Teeth changed the arena to be significantly larger and easier to animate, the change was made so that they could just be controlled by dust. Next was Blake vs. Adam, Yang vs. Adam, another scene that Shane was hyped to animate. Originally, Blake and Adam were supposed to fight, with Yang stepping in and preventing Blake from dying. It was long awaited, and Shane says that the scene was meant to be ultra badass. But apparently, Rooster Teeth didn't even write it into the script because they didn't look at what Monty had created for them prior. Monty had already rendered the scenes, most of which were used during Volume 6. This was supposed to be a lengthy battle between Adam and Yang, and it also would have helped establish how strong Adam actually is. Next up was RWBY versus Torchwick and Neo. Apparently, Monty had never intended for this fight to be atop of an aircraft, and apparently they changed the ending so that Neo's umbrella would open and she would be whisked away. Shane claims that it was the most absurd, facepalm-inducing thing to stray from Monty's vision so far. The pivotal scene, Pyrrha versus Cinder. Originally, Jean was supposed to witness and cause Pyrrha's death, which would have triggered a major character growth for him. Apparently, Cinder was intentionally made OP, and originally the idea was that Pyrrha was a powerful warrior that could go toe-to-toe with her. Shane was unceremoniously fired not soon after. He claims it was of no surprise. Unfortunately, we have to understand that Rooster Teeth is a company first and foremost, and maybe that was where the folly of this whole situation began. Rooster Teeth treated a man's dream as an asset, intellectual property that they could twist and mold to fit their own narrative, to make money, to push a message, whatever it is. With this knowledge in mind, I think it is fairly simple to pick a side. Any of us RWBY fans know that the series has taken a major decline. A lot of us are not satisfied with the story or the characters anymore, and everyone simply attributes it to bad writing, whereas now it might be more aligned with Rooster Teeth writing. The weight of fact and fiction is thrown around here, as many declare this statement to be fundamentally false, whereas others swear by the truth. In my personal opinion, when you read over this, you can tell that this is, well, it's the truth. Shane deeply mourns for his friend and mentor, and after seeing the turn it has taken since Monty's passing, finds the actions of the company reprehensible. I can understand Rooster Teeth taking this from the standpoint of a company protecting their own assets, but it is clearly a money grab, and their unwillingness to honor Monty's original timeline or story is proof enough of that. Think back to what Shane said, that Monty intended for Jean to witness and cause Pyrrha's death. I don't know about you, but I didn't really feel like RWBY needed to witness Pyrrha's death at all. It gave her a power-up. That's all it did. Were they close friends? Not particularly. Did they talk from time to time? Sure. RWBY was also pretty friendly with Emerald. But you know who spent a lot of time with Pyrrha? Jean. You know who's clearly starting to develop feelings for Pyrrha? Jean. You know who could have been able to make Pyrrha hesitate or willingly throw her life away to protect? Jean. It fits too perfectly. It would have made so much sense and been a beautiful part for the character. I implore you to go read through this and compare it to the point where Monty passed, and see how horribly things have shifted. The exact pinpoint can almost be found. From the moment Rooster Teeth took over direction, the change can be seen. With recent happenings and Rooster Teeth's willingness to fire a star voice actor over proven false allegations, it just goes to show that Rooster Teeth is not the community-oriented group of friends it once was. Now, the ice blood in their veins as a full-fledged company. I remember when Achievement Hunter was this amazing, interesting group of dudes I used to watch all the time. But now, I don't really care that much anymore. I remember when they focused on the community at large, and I remember when Monty was a part of that community, and even his tiniest influence had serious ripples. It is just depressing to see. Even shows like Red vs. Blue, which should have ended a long time ago, are forced to continue on. Rooster Teeth needs to realign itself with its fans and understand that their direction is not one everyone wants to be a part of. And sometimes they even come off as the villains, and not even the interesting, relatable kind. They come off as the standard cartoon evildoer who does things just for the sake of causing annoyance. It's sad to see that Rooster Teeth has this dark side. Consider this an impromptu video because really, I remember that I read this letter a long time ago and I didn't really think too much on it, but I decided to go back and give it a read because I've been noticing how everybody seems to be finally agreeing that RWBY is going downhill. And when you read over what this guy had to say, what Shane had to say, everything kind of falls into place. None of it is making much sense. It seems like a completely different story, and I feel like that's exactly what it is. Bits and pieces of Monty's writing can still be found, but for the most part, you have this stumbling, grubbly attempt at doing something that's just not working. And fans can see that. And I'm sure you guys can see it too. And if you took the time to read this statement or watch this video, you can come to understand why it is that this show is going so far down the hill. It's just not, they're not doing what they were supposed to be doing. They're not doing what they did in the beginning, which was trust the direction for this original show. And Monty was always interested in completing his project and then moving on to the next thing. His slogan was keep moving forward. Rooster Teeth has adopted this slogan, but it appears that they're moving forward with their own dreams, and they're not honoring Monty with this simple token of finishing his work as he had already established it. Instead, they're just making their own for the sake of money. And that to me is just, that is a real sad ending. That is a sad story. And I certainly hope that this changes because this just puts the company in a whole new light. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, well, I don't know. This one's going to be kind of a... Don't worry. I'll get to everything later. Just for now, I'm just making this real quick. So stay tuned.